All right, welcome to the final pairing. Um, Now we're going to continue pairing, but there might be less Pauls on the call. Um, but let me introduce this issue that we've done before, and I like this a lot. Terry brought this up because she ran into it. Um, but the intent is when in our tests we will often assert that an Apollo handler was called, but we do this in a very, very mocking way, where we're just making fun of it. I'm joking. We do this in a very mockist way where we are um, not even integrating with the actual variables that the query itself is expecting. And so what happens is like this gives us a false sense of security because the query itself isn't ever even receiving some of these variables. Um, and so what happened in Terry's case was there was an MR that added some additional params to here. And oh, the test failed and we update here. But those variables were never added to the query itself, which is something that I think we're kind of used to having to manually check, but
Mm,
clearly it gets overlooked.
mm,
And it's like, oh yeah, why are we manually checking this? Like we should figure this out. So the key update here was okay, here in our mock Apollo helper,
mhm,
when we receive all of our handlers and we set the request handler and we just call it with all the args, instead in our handlers, let's get the variables of the query and let's filter the given args to only include the intersection of the query variables. And then let's call our handler with that. So now we have a whole bunch of failing, not a bunch, but it's a good amount, a whole bunch of failing unit tests that were asserting that, oh, yeah, we called it with these variables, but it didn't include them because the query that was actually being used doesn't receive these variables. And I think that's really helpful integration information. But the other side that might show that this is I don't know, less than helpful is we do this kind of thing a lot. And so this is what a lot of those tests fail on. We do these like conditional queries, queries in these Apollo smart queries.
mm.
So a lot of our tests are just not, I'm going to use this adjective, but I don't mean it in a mean way, are just naively um throwing the whole variable object there, but like some of these variables are used here, but not in this query, you know? And I think that's really helpful information for us to bubble up in our tests. But I don't know, maybe there's a trade off of like, oh, integrating the actual used query variables is now making some of the tests maybe more complex. But a lot of these are just pretty straightforward, just omitting either the parameters that aren't actually used or here is a case where oh, let's use actual variables, not just some pretend variables in our component, that kind of thing. Does that scope make sense?
Yeah, it's actually one first follow-up question already. Is it like now you're checking that the set is the same, or are you okay to have more variables put in?
We would
Because
go ahead.
because I could, for example, also see that someone put something in the variables without without wanting to use it, just in order, for example, to make sure that the variables get re-evaluated so that a new query is triggered, right? Like, so you could,
Mm,
for example, see how someone is using like a timestamp or something like this as part of the variable so that the thing is,
yeah.
re-evaluated and
That
then, yeah.
that would still be fine. Like that wouldn't affect here. The main thing is that for our mock Apollo helper,
Mhm.
we only call the handler that we're given. We only
With
call
the
this
arguments.
handler with the intersection of the given arguments and the actual query variables.
Okay, so we take the query variables, we filter the ones out, we only take the one from the variables
Hmm.
that are actually existent in the query, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
So, but that still means the query could hypothetically fail in case you forgot to pass a variable.
I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I'll have to remember how we did it. But
Like, no, no, I don't mean in the mock helper. I just mean in general, right? Like, because GraphQL, if you have like a required variable, it kind of fails, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. So
yes.
that would be
So
cool.
it's like,
Oh, and that's a great point. So we did when we were parsing this out,
yeah.
yeah, we did have we to
Oh,
get the
okay.
variable definitions, I am figuring out required. I don't think I'm doing anything with it, but
Mm,
yeah. So let's see
yeah.
what filter arguments does. Is like here's known variables,
Um,
here's args. Um,
So what do we need to pair on? You've done all the work.
well, the thing is, there's just a handful more failing tests.
um,
Ah,
So it's
I,
pretty
s-
straightforward.
I assume that we don't need to care in VSMR about the required properties, right? So we only try to intersect and verify that.
Right. But I
I,
think we can. I think that would be interesting is like, um,
but it could also be a
I th
follow-up, right? For
yes,
future
yes,
polls
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
together.
yeah.
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 I think what IP said about the adding passing variables there that are not required but might trigger the refetch is where we can degrade the test itself. Like we verify that those variables were set for the sake of checking if the refetch was happening. And now we'll remove this check. And
Well, yeah, and
mhm.
I think that case would actually like play super nicely in here because Apollo will automatically just refetch. So we would just need to just check how many times was it called. We wouldn't have to check the implementation detail of, oh, did I pass this extra variable to it? And that variable won't even show up in our spy call because we're only filtering it for the ones that are defined in the query.
I mean that the spec won't the way we change it now, we just reduce the number of expected parameters, and we are not checking that if it's been called second time. Um, my my idea is maybe we could, create create some checking function that would allow this temporary violation of this rule that we do with strict checking. And we put a ESLint rule on that, forbidding this to be used. And we push this fixing of individual specs
Yeah,
on the teams who have the
and we could
knowledge.
do it that way too. And yeah, so
Yeah.
that let me share two more thoughts with this. Um, where's this thing? Um, two more thoughts with this. One being, all right, I lost one of my thoughts. I'm only going to share one thought now. Um, to do that, yes, I think that's a good idea. Oh no, I got my other thought. Okay.
Start with one thought.
All right, let me start with thought number one. One
Oh,
is
number zero, please.
okay, all right. I'll start with number zero. We're not gonna
Yeah.
do any basic. Is it basic that starts with one or
I don't
like
know.
anyways, um there's a downside to this. One
Okay.
being this is what I see being the thing that could be confusing if we did this and didn't educate other people writing front end tests on it is like if I go up to here and I say, oh, or wait, let me go back to here. Let me go to this. This MR is a really good example. So this first MR that didn't update the actual query, but just updated here. If
Yeah.
I've added these and this is all still passing, and I'm like, oh, let me add these, and I see, oh no, it's not actually being called with these, it's going to be a little confusing unless I know, like, oh, we're doing this intersection of what the actual query is. Like, the only information someone writing the test is going to get is that, oh, hey, your handler was called without these parameters. That's the only information we kind of give to the.
Wait, so in your MR, I mean, let's try it out. Like, how would that file fail if let's try it out. Let's
Yeah,
try
do you
it out.
want to do
Let's
you want to drive to do that?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
let's do that.
go away.
The other thought I was going to share
Oh,
was, if we wanted to do this optional opting in for this thing, and
yeah,
that might make it more obvious, is like I would do this as an option on the create mock Apollo helper. Let's just have an option
yeah,
for that
yeah.
helper of like,
Ignore the thing.
yeah, something like that. So
Yeah,
that was it.
cool. So, okay, I am on the branch. I'm up to date. We have MR number 2. So, and we have MR number 1, right?
Mhm.
Cool. And yeah, I will just increase my font size a little bit. Yarn run just minus minus watch. And so the thing is, I'm just, in order to understand it a little bit better, I will just run this spec file, right? Cool. This one is green, beautiful. And I will also open this query, right? Oops. I will open this query and I will remove include forked, right? That should do it, right? This now should fail. Huh, okay. Number of calls to have been called with is expected. Is that so? This is coming from the stuff that we have written, right?
Well, the message isn't. So all we're doing is changing how that handler gets called by mock Apollo. So the error message isn't actually coming from us. The error message is coming naturally from Jest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, and the actual logic that is triggering the error is in this one? No. So we're doing filtering here, right?
Yeah.
So in our example, args query variables doesn't include forked. Wait, but that also means that if I go to the spec and I don't change the thing, where's the thing? Where's the extra thing? So
Include archived, or
if I remove this,
it should pass.
ah,
You don't like that.
I mean I like yours. It's beautiful, but I don't think it's enough necessarily, right? Like, I think it's a good problem to detect. And I mean, it's a good problem to detect this mismatch, right? I
It's just,
just wonder if the mismatch detection should even be stronger,
yeah, that's a good
right?
question.
Yeah, and maybe it should be like in the runtime. Like I'm not sure if the specs are the right place to check if the function called the GraphQL query with the right parameters.
It
Maybe we
probably
should do
should
this.
actually be static analysis, right? Like
Yeah,
it, it
and we have, and I think Kev has been working on putting the types on the GraphQL and having this exported for all the queries. Like I think it's not the what you are showing right now, IP. I think it's not the task of the specs to verify that these function
Yeah, but
called.
on the other hand, like even if you have types, the problem is I don't think types will do anything, right? Because this query is valid without this.
Oh no, the query is valid, but the way we are calling it with an extra parameter is not valid.
Well, it technically is valid.
It is valid because GraphQL just ignores extra
So
valid
this sounds like we're in the
parameters.
warning zone. Like maybe we can update our handler to just warn. and actually maybe have a filter like a parameter for like
Don't warn in specs, etc., right? Like because nobody gives it and reads it, right? Like
except we fail the test if a console warn is called.
yeah, but like I mean this is what I was asking because I mean one of the things in your which function is it? Like I mean I don't know, feels like bad manners, but I mean one of the things that we probably could do is like right? Like we could expect here that they are the same, right? We expect I don't know if args is like an object or right, expect args to equal query variables, right?
This
Something
is
like
bad
this.
manners. You would be excused from the dinner table.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like it's almost as strict as a, how you call it? It's almost as strict as a,
Yeah, but this does though affect like I see now too where your question was coming from. Cause so you had
I mean, you should check that the required ones are there, right? Like, so you could pre-filter that and
yeah, and
I
I
don't
think
know.
I think that's an important deal, you know.
I'm not sure if it's the task of the current function and the current module. Like maybe it should be a separate thing.
So do you think
Uh,
it's enough of a signal? So I think going back to the two MRs that Terry experienced, the first
Hmm.
one being I update the view components query variables,
Hmm.
and then she updated a test. If this was in master, updating the test would have failed. But what would have still been green is if she updated to add these new query variables. Do you think it's a good enough signal of like, hey, you have no tests updated along with this? Like, is that a good enough signal of like something's not happening the way you think it's happening?
To be honest, like you should, you or the reviewer should have caught it, and I might say you might have even done this on purpose because you might want to add the variables, but because of GraphQL backend changes are not allowed to be merged in the same milestone as GraphQL frontend changes, you might have actually decided to push the query change out one release,
Hmm.
right? Like, I don't know, like
Oh,
seems like a
that's interesting.
little bit crazy because why would you do these front end changes? Because, anyway, but I mean, I'm still like, but I feel like this is also more the job of like static analysis, right? Like because if you think about even if the query is like how often is the query a function that is more complicated than a ternary,
It
right?
happens
Like
actually. Well, it happens a bit. And I
more
only know
complex than a ternary?
it can get injected. It's funny.
Nah, I just freaking hate Apollo. Okay, so we have here's like choosing something good.
Sometimes
Why?
I feel like sometimes there's one. Yeah, that's one. Dude, look at that one. Isn't that funny?
That's not funny. That's like
Oh, but that's a computed one. No, there's one that is funny.
no, but that's still like what what query to object?
Okay, but this is a false positive. This is an Apollo query.
Oh, okay, good. I was just like, what the heck? Query? Okay, this is wrong.
Yeah.
So okay,
These are
we have multiple query thingies because flow metrics query.
that's one. So
Okay.
this one is like we have these
Okay, we have like EE and CE version of the boards and
or at runtime based on the
yeah.
type, it's a different query.
Mm.
So it gets very like so you see like board yeah. So for the work
Yeah,
item
yeah.
stuff, it's very tricky. Um yeah,
Jeez.
the query I as I experienced was not super straightforward all the time.
Sorry, IB, could you run in the background some amount of specs with the change you introduced with this strict check on the parameters?
Oh, I mean the check that I've written is not proper, right? Right, like the check that I've written is more like we would need to adjust it. Would that be okay?
Can,
I mean,
can you show the check again?
yeah, I mean, I wasn't unsure of the types, but it seems like one of them is just a normal object, and the other one of them is like
So one is
objects
a
with
list of the
name required.
variables.
So
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
it should probably object args. It should be object dot
Entries or yeah.
keys or
Args.
the args, and the other one is queryables dot map x dot name. Is that right?
The order of the arrays might be different.
Yeah.
Oh, and also I messed something up. It's wait, what?
Oh, args is an array, so you're gonna do just the first. It's args 0.
Oh, okay, yes, that makes sense. Args. They can be multiple. Okay,
But
so we
yeah, I
have
think
chunks.
it's in the ordering of them.
Is that to match array? I have done
I
too
have no
much
idea.
RSpec
I
recently.
know. I have no idea.
What is it?
I, th
Just
I think we'll have to sort them.
just match arrays.
But the fact that but this is important though. The fact that we have required and not required means that I don't want to have an expectation throw when I don't pass everything to it. Like if I have not required variables, like that's fine, right? I should be able to not pass those to them.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. I mean, then it would be a little bit different. It would be at least, but then it doesn't make sense because the variables added were not required, right? Like, so it wouldn't catch it, right? But I mean, we could add a check that is like, hey, expect, uh, um, what is it? We have the query variables, right? Variables, filter, x required, map.
Mhm.
Ooh, thank you, AI. And then every, and then we just be like, what is it? Args 0 includes.
Do you need a lambda inside the every?
Yes, that's good. Yeah, that's good. So we don't even need the map, but includes x, and then this is to equal true, right?
Or is it not includes? It'll be
What is
like
now complaining? Number of calls.
arg 0 includes is not a function because arg 0 is an object.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's like object keys. I mean, this is very crude code. So this should now work, and the test gets. So this checks that all required ones are there.
Yeah.
So this is definitely not needed because it can just be X name. And actually the filter is also not needed because it could just be X required. And we have not required or, right?
Nice.
Sorry for the Boolean brain. And
We can
yeah,
use we can use in operator instead of object keys.
That's it. An operator. Yeah, I was like, has own property? Is it has own property? It's like there's got to be a better way to do that. I mean, x dot name in args 0,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Um, except name in arg 0.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do has own property
Yeah.
for
Object
inheritance safety. I don't know.
has own. Is it has own or has own
Mhm.
property? Doesn't matter,
Has
right?
own property.
Has own is the newer one, right?
Is it?
Args 0. I mean, it literally just said that.
It
It's
says it's the
intended
newer
as a
one.
replacement.
Well, intended as a replacement is different than it's the newer one.
let's
The
see if
number
it
of times
works.
I number
let's
of
move
times I
on.
wrote the intended as a replacement and it didn't actually
Yeah,
replace the thing.
yeah, cool. So let's.
And we have to.
No, it's yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean that would be a question, but that would I mean to be honest, I think this check makes sense, but it doesn't make sense because if Terry would have, or the person who wrote the MR would have forgotten a required one, the thing would have failed, they would have seen it, right?
So
So
that's so that
Not
is one thing
not
that Terry noticed was that a lot of these are actually required too. She noticed that with the query, or like some of them, the way that the query was written doesn't necessarily match that. The way that variable part was written doesn't necessarily match the.
oh, you're saying that someone declares a variable as non-needed, but it's actually needed?
I
That's
think
something you
she
can
said something like
do.
But
that too. That
but
sounds familiar.
isn't
Go ahead,
I
Jill.
felt like the linter of the GraphQL file will yell at you
Okay, then that's
because
good.
we have the schema, right?
That could be like, I mean, what happens if we do this and then what is the GraphQL linter? Oh, I hate the linter.
I thought it
Um,
was just oh
and then what? No, not Yum. Git add, and then
I
I was
it's
didn't
like,
quite.
yarn ad is like, what are you doing, man?
sorry. Does the linter now yell at me, or is the linter? No, it's happy about
I
the.
didn't. I didn't quite catch the issue. Could you repeat this? The
No.
concern we have.
So we were
so
talking about we were still considering the that the value of
What do we actually want to check? That's the question, right?
yeah. What
I
were we gonna
think
say,
we are.
Chow?
wait, why I have it in my I for sure have seen. So like what's going on here is if we have a required field in the schema, but in the GraphQL file, we define it as not required. Like
Oh
I
yeah, it
for
probably
sure
will.
some
Yeah. Uh, I
yeah.
think what you want to do is to change the required property in the backend.
No, I don't
I
want
think.
to. The
Yeah.
question is like, the question is like, I mean, is that even a required property? Because then I would argue I don't care in the front end because query blob search, right? Type blob search,
Search
search string,
is
it's
a
it's required. It should be required, so it should be failing now, right? It should be failing because we're not doing this. This is what you're saying, right?
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, here it's yeah, here this one is failing, but like our linter is not failing, right?
Oh, how sophisticated. It shows the failure also on line two from the way it's used on line 10.
What?
It's used in a position expecting string bang,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
underlines it for all references to it. That's fancy.
But I mean, this is a thing. This file also, like, we shouldn't bother about that because this is what we would have a linter for. And actually,
Mhm.
one thing that we have is a problem anyhow. Any of those queries should not lint against the current version. It also should lint against the previously released version because otherwise you're running afoul of the
Mm.
multi-version GraphQL thing. So I guess long story short is checking the mandatory variables makes no sense, right? Mm. So
Why not? What
backing up,
are you talking
I
about?
think. I think.
it
I think
doesn't
it's
because the
us.
linter should check it, right? It's double work. Why should we do it? Like,
I think in the runtime we can have a situation where there is a ternary on the GraphQL on the query, and our tests don't cover everything, and we could have a situation where this like no, if the test don't cover everything that it would.
we wouldn't catch the runtime
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
Wait,
probably
so
what we should.
here's the
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
This is at runtime. So we're seeing what is the actual runtime package of variables that's being
Yeah.
sent to the query. And that's different than what we can currently do with static analysis.
No. So, yeah. Okay, I guess, yeah, I guess what you're saying. So like we could check, because static analysis would only check that the query itself is fine,
Mhm.
but with this we would check that you're actually sending the required thing to the query,
Yeah, so
right?
this is checking the view files behavior and integration with all of that, which I think is
Yeah.
really cool. But I mean, honestly, is like I hate untyped languages. Is like there's no reason while we're moving to view 3, why
Oh,
not we
cool.
also use TypeScript?
Because you're leaving the company and you don't put the work in. Um,
I know.
so,
Uh
but like this, mm, mm, awesome.
yeah.
So, like, actually, this is not too bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, this is reporting on a missing variable.
Yes. So then
That's like a reasonable thing. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great. But this is a little different than the problem that Terry was running into. So
Yeah, that's a different. Yeah.
that problem is I'm passing things that I think will be accepted.
I'm
Um,
passing things that I think will be accepted.
so
So
No,
talking about extra, you're passing extra parameters, right?
well, yes, I think I'm passing it, and I don't want them to be treated as extra parameters. I want them to be included in the GraphQL query. And so,
Yes.
no.
go ahead, Cos.
Yeah, we just check if vice versa, if the args keys in args are in the query.
Yeah, I think it's fine because even in the ternary situation, if tests start to fail, where is it? Where did we have like a ternary situation? This one? No, we had like didn't we have like where's it gone? Like where we have like this one, right? Imagine both of them take different parameters, right?
Yeah,
Why wouldn't you then just do the same in the variables? I mean, we're doing it in the update,
we do
we're
that
doing it in the
sometimes, and
query.
I know I've seen one of them like that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, to be honest, the thing that I don't understand is like, why aren't we swapping out the whole object based on what you use, right? That
Yeah,
might
I
be
mean,
instead of
look on
having.
line 70 too. It's like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, right? Because this feels like, I, I mean, at this point, you could also name this all the queries thing, and you just have all the queries here, right? Where you,
Yeah.
this is like very kind of, to be honest, the pattern that you showed that we found earlier with like, where is it? This one. Whew. I mean, this would assume you should have some linting that makes sure that all of these have the same return, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like I'd rather have you write board epic lists, right? Yada yada, and board, I don't know, what is something else that you can have in issue lists, right?
Issues.
Yeah.
And then you work with skip, for example, right? Like
Yeah.
with skip and be like, hey, skip this query if the type is not the matching type, right?
Yeah.
And then you could have a computer that pulls the right value. I don't know, right? Like that
But
feels a little bit
you can also though like create a function to help like encapsulate those too. But
like or even turn that freaking thing into like a factory where it's like, give me
mhm.
the epic component, right? Like, or give me the, yeah, I don't know, where you basically set the things as props or something. I don't know, right? This
Yeah.
seems very oof. Anyway, yeah. So the question, I think the thing that we do here is still fine, right? Like, and not that many tests actually fails. Like,
Yeah, it's
how
not that
many?
many more. It's not that many more. The I think it's really helpful. Um,
I mean, it's just 5 files that are failing, right?
how'd you pull those? What did you just do?
I ran spec git failures GitLab and added DMR, and then I
What
pulled
is
them.
spec failures GitLab?
I mean, if you're here 7 years, you end up writing some scripts.
Is this a IP homegrown thing?
Yeah, yeah,
This is like so useful. Why is it not in the main project?
it's an NPM package. It's even
It's an
released.
NPM package. Okay.
Yeah, GitLab spec
Okay.
failures, right? It's just
You got to add this as a yarn script and do like npx GitLab
that's
spec
true.
failures. That'd be
That's
cool.
that's actually true. Yeah, I should pull it in. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
that's
way
actually
better
true.
than way better than going through the UI.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just pulls the API stuff and does the
Nice.
parses the responses and
Nice.
gives you all the RSpec and jest failures. Yeah.
Nice. That's
You're
cool.
right. I should probably upstream it. I mean, it's just like 200 lines of
Well, no,
goodness.
keep it as your own npm package, but just like, oh, if there was a way
Ah,
it was clear just to
no,
yarn.
I think this should just live as one of our tooling scripts and be documented, and then it's easier for people to contribute back, right? Because
Well,
why should I
except
release?
though, what?
Anyway, we're getting
Okay.
sidetracked. So should we just try to fix the five? Because to be honest, if
Yes,
it's just
yes,
5 files, I'm just like get the
yes,
pipeline green, merge the thing that Paul
yes.
has done, and
Do we
be good.
do we do we still check the extra stuff that we pass? I didn't catch that. Are we
This year?
checking if we are passing extra stuff to the
So extra
to the
stuff we
thing?
will permit. I think just for right now, let's see how it goes. But
Why?
because
I think
so
the original issue was with the extra stuff, not the required stuff, right?
let me think for a second. So there's
I think it
three.
could be
There's three.
iterations. I start with the. I think it could be iterations. Start with what Paul has in this MR. Then, as the next one, check that nothing extra is passed. See how much stuff fails, and then with the next one, be like, right, like because I mean the thing is, if you have an expect here that prints a really nice error message, that's more helpful than anything else, right? Like it's like, oh, I expected the required thing,
Mhm.
right? And if we then have like one that checks that you don't pass stuff, is like, hey, why did you pass the other variable? And then depending on how much stuff fails, we could find a workaround. For example, if you want to use one of the variables to re-trigger a query, just prefix it with dollar and we won't check it or something like that. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
That's a good
typical,
point. So
yeah.
when we talk about passing extra stuff, I think there's two manifestations of that. One, this is trying to fix our some naivety. I'm not pronouncing that word right. Naivete in our unit test environment where I can
Mm,
assert that, oh, this query was called with all this extra stuff that it doesn't actually accept. So that's what the problem that I was originally focusing on.
mm.
But there's still the idea of, okay, I didn't update my tests, but I'm still just adding extra stuff. And I think, yeah, that's a problem. Um,
Yeah. So
It'd
so
be
so
nice, but I think a signal for that problem would be there's no test that you've updated around that. Once you go to the process of updating a test for that, you'll see that nothing is receiving those extra stuff. And hopefully that's a signal for you that something isn't behaving the way you think it is.
so wait, so what you're actually testing again is that, wait, is this the sidebar navigation? Where's the component for this? Okay. So what this test on this side is actually testing is, wait, so this is testing that all of these are there? No.
Yeah,
I'm
so this
kind
is
of lost.
testing the way that these specs work is you pass to the Mock Apollo client a pairing, a tuple of query to spy.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we're what this is trying to say is like, oh, my spy was called with these variables, and that is how we usually kind of confirm or deny. Oh, the my variables are getting passed correctly. So the key change here is we will only call your handler with variables that matter.
They are in the query. Yes.
Yes, that's the
You
key.
know, well, do we actually do the other end as well? Like, I'm just thinking because this is the mock response that we're putting in. The
Oh
mock
geez, oh
response,
geez, I know. Yes, this is a huge problem. We really need to fix this. This
like,
is
like, like for
yeah,
example, this is a problem as well, right? Like right here, it
yeah,
has file count. File count is not in the query, right? So
yeah, yeah. This is a huge problem, and it's such a huge problem sometimes because it'll just actually, if we don't have it matching up right, sometimes Apollo just blows up, but our error handling ends up doing this weird thing where it recovers from it blowing up, and then it actually ends up in a totally weird state. Like this is a
yeah.
separately huge important problem to solve.
So
And
yeah,
many years
the other
ago, but
thing,
with Nathan
yeah,
Friend, and he's not here with us anymore. Uh,
yeah.
he and I were like trying to create something that could generate responses. Like give me a query and I will generate a response that matches that query. So we're not having to like handwrite these.
Yeah, but by the way, this is something that that I am reviewing in MR right now. It's where someone starts generating mock fixtures, right? Like instead of checking in those fixtures, they start generating it.
Oh,
And
through fixtures.
I'm not the biggest fan. I hate fixtures. I would
Yeah.
want fixtures to go away. But
Well, they're
like,
tough because
yeah,
I have to have them on my file system. Like if if
they
I
should be
had
checked in, right?
if I had like a library like Faker and I could just give it a query and say, hey, fake me a response to this query, like that
Mm.
would be really cool. That's the kind of thing, not like a fixture approach, but more like a runtime, like build me a fake object. That was kind of the thing I was wanting to do. Yeah. I mean, these fixtures are nice. I mean, they give you the right kind of coverage that we want. All of it though is the kind of coverage you get for free when you live in type land. So it's how much man, we
Yeah,
do so much. Uh
yeah. It's a little bit too tropical for me, to be honest. Typeland.
yep.
Sorry. We're getting way off beat here. Should we just
Yep.
really try to,
Laying on the beach, sipping my types.
yeah, my types exactly. Um, so let's just out
Yeah, you
of
want to, are we so I think having this discussion was really important to me. Really wanted to talk about it with you, IP, if you thought these changes make sense. And if they
I
make sense, then yeah, let's just fix the specs and
I don't think cause you are the one that kind of challenged the whole thing. I don't think they make our tests worse.
History check test, the required test,
So here we
or the
have
original, yeah.
the one that Paul proposes. It doesn't fit. I think it doesn't make stuff worse. So as an example, right? Like, so here we have a destination destroy mutation, right? And it has like is instance as a variable, but is instance is probably not used in one of those mutations, right? Like
Mhm.
destiny. So here we have a right, like is instance is probably not used at all in one of them. I mean, also kind of doesn't make sense, right? And so I guess that in the spec for this, is instance false, you
Do we have another one?
is instance
But
false.
it's like but it does highlight too, is like wait, did none of those queries take this? Like, did when we did some refactoring, are we overlooking something? Like, this is shining a light on some kind of, I don't know, often overlooked incomplete refactorings and with some of the stuff we were looking at.
I think the is instance thing might have.
So see, it is now it got like bubbled out of the query, and now it's like changing which query we use. Like we used it now in a different way on line
Oh,
45
line 45.
of so it's like if
Yeah,
my
but
get
that kind of worked anyhow, right? Like,
well, I think the history of this, and I think
okay.
I think the history of it is it used to be a query variable,
Yeah.
and then now we use it outside of the query to switch between queries, but we
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
finish
yeah,
the
it actually might be that we kind of use switching in here,
yeah,
right? That we
yeah,
might have
yeah,
used like the add if
yeah.
whatever kind of is instance thing here,
Right.
right? Like,
Right. So this
yeah,
change is like highlighting though like some incomplete we didn't finish refactoring things,
yeah,
which is cool. I think that's cool.
yeah. I think this change kind of makes sense because yeah, and we know that this is in, but to be honest, from looking at it makes sense, but I don't know if there are now side effects of this. I mean, no, I don't think so because we're still checking that the right query was resolved, right? So like delete instance Amazon S3. Yeah. So yeah, makes sense, right? The destination instance Amazon S3 delete mutation populator factory bean has been called. And so this still makes sense. So we still are testing that this one was called, not that this one was called. Like, so
Mm.
we just removed some unnecessary stuff from here and
Yeah.
some unnecessary stuff from the specs. So
Yeah.
we are golden,
Yeah.
right? By the way, if object containing, okay. So what do we have here? So which one, where are we failing? Which line is it? Why are no lines? Object containing to have been called with. Oh, so this is interesting. What do you think about this then? Because object containing obviously is kind of already aware that not the correct object is in here, right?
And it looks like includes subgroups is the thing that our query that's actually being used isn't expecting. So what is this? This is
Okay. So let's see.
this is
Oh God.
project token.view.
Yeah, there's only 10 of them. So
There's
which one
only
is it?
10 of them.
Muted.
Oh no. Yeah, which one is it?
Okay, query variable search. This might be the actual problem. Wait, what? No, I'm confused. Oh no, it's dependencies, components, filtered search.
Dependencies.
Dependencies, components. What is dependencies, components?
It's for your dependencies.
EE?
You know,
Dependencies. There we have
you
it.
file your
Okay,
taxes. You know your dependencies.
cool. So the problem is that here in this case, the get projects query doesn't use the include subgroups,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't even use it.
So we get rid of it. It should be golden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it? Yeah. Is it now green? Oh, project. Okay. So like include subgroups needs to be removed here as well. Okay.
AI.
Ciao. Cause is that you're pretty
I was
quiet.
very frustrated by the fact I felt like there was a plugin before in the editor will tell you when the thing doesn't match. So I started looking at like different plugins. Like
Mm,
there is one in JetBrain. I'm trying to set it up, but I like didn't. I just feels like what we're trying to do. Basically, what we're trying to do is there is a GraphQL file,
yeah.
and we have a schema somewhere in the repo. The two
Yeah.
need to match. Like that's fundamentally what
No,
we're
I
looking
don't
for.
think so. The thing is, we have a GraphQL file. The
Uh-huh.
GraphQL file has variables, and we are trying to make sure that the variables that we pass are all in the query. We're not even doing that. We're trying that our specs only use variables that we have in the query.
Right. So
Right?
it's okay. So it's the view file.
Yeah,
So,
we are trying to make sure that the variables here and the variables that we
Yeah.
use in the specs that
Yeah.
they match, right? That we are trying to make sure, whew, we are trying to make sure
that
that the variables that we use in specs are actually in the query.
Actually in the
Yes.
query. Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Got
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So, but to be honest, I think in the case, Paul, that we're now doing, I think it might even make more sense. Where's the oh gotcha, where are you? Where do we have the here? I think it might still make more sense handler args because we're filtering the arguments here.
Mhm.
I think it would okay. Oh gosh, I see it now.
what?
Sorry. No. So this is the response, right? So this, if we go back to the spec, like let's go to another one that we changed, like this one. Oh no, not where's the other one that we changed? Ah, gosh, is this the first one we changed? So, oh,
To have been called with might be the
to have been called with. Yes, right? So I would say it would probably make more sense here to write an expectation here, right? To be like, hey, you have provided like something that doesn't exist in the query, right?
Mhm. Well, um,
Mock result value.
thanks for a second.
No, 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 I don't think, is this the right place?
You provided
And
something that doesn't exist in the query. Yeah,
yeah,
I think so. I think that would be really good, but I think that's so there's like three problems. There's one is yes, there's three problems. One is required variables are called, and that's not the one we're really solving right now. But you wrote that expectation, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
Um, one is
required
we
required
only
variables are missing, or
yeah, it's not called. You're right. Required
yeah,
variables are they're required. The first one
yeah,
is
uh,
the first one that this MR is focusing on is handler is only called with real variables. That was the problem I was trying to solve was handlers
handlers only called with
real
variables.
variables.
So
and
actually, it would, yeah, it would be here. Yeah, it would be that
and,
that the
and
args are, yeah,
number one means that the view file called the query only with required parameters.
no, it means that
Oh,
in
no,
your
not
specs,
required. To.
it
Yeah.
means that in your specs, you're using only variables that are in the queries.
Can you show it?
Yes. So the problem again, if we just look at the If we look at this one, I need to jump to another call.
Okay, you're good.
The problem is here the block count handler, right?
Yeah. So targeting was like, okay, I think we can. That test should have failed. Was the original approach? Is like,
Yes,
okay,
the test should have been failed because the block count handler was called with variables that are not in. Oh,
So,
fuck me.
as far as I understand, we can have to solve the problem number one. We can have two things. We can either expect within this function that it has been called only with parameters that are in the query, or we could filter out the parameters that are not in the query, return this back to the test itself, and there we would have these things filtered.
Yes, and
So
this is what we're doing right now, and I think the DX is not great because so it would make more sense to already blow up here,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
because then we
yeah.
can get
And to be
actually better error handling and
yeah,
messaging with it. Yeah, I think it's a good
and
idea.
to be honest, like even doing the call here and be like, you called the thing with the with like a future iteration would be to ensure that you only pass variables that are actually part of the query, might need some refactoring in some places, is actually also a good thing, which would already also solve this case, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can see it. I can see the risk there.
Yes.
Like
And I need to jump.